Good morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Friday, August 24th. In a stunning development, Americans woke up this morning to hear the news that Lance Armstrong is going to be stripped of his 7 Tour de France titles. Mr. Armstrong has given up the fight against the United States Anti-Doping Agency, which has been claiming over the past several years that he has in fact failed several dope tests. Mr. Armstrong has passed hundreds of tests during his racing career. He has chosen to give up the fight. This means that at some point in the next several hours, actually, he's going to be stripped of the 7 Tour de France titles as well as his bronze Olympic medal. Amazing development. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York yesterday sold the last of its toxic assets that it had acquired when it helped with the U.S. government to bail out the insurance company AIG back in 2008. The Federal Reserve in New York reaped a $6.6 billion profit in selling the collateralized debt obligations that had put AIG in trouble. The only remaining government tie to the insurance company is about $24 billion still remaining from the Treasury's investment under the TARP program. Get this, the AIG bailout has yielded the government over $18 billion in interest, fees, and profits already. That's a pretty good return. Tropical storm Isaac has strengthened slightly as it continues to move toward the Dominican Republic. It's going to hit Haiti and the DR sometime later today. It's not as strong as been expected. However, it's expected to gain more strength once it passes the island of Hispaniola and begins to move out into the warm water of the Caribbean. It's now expected to become a hurricane on Monday, and it could still threaten Tampa, where the Republicans are gathering. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, Typhoon Tembin blasted across the southern shore of Taiwan, dumping about 4 feet of rain in some area, forcing heavy floods and evacuations, and also leaving thousands of homes without power. The storm has moved offshore, but as the Taiwan Meteorological Service has said, today and tomorrow will be a crucial time. It may come back. It's determined by a multitude of factors. Sometimes typhoons actually do turn around. Right behind it, though, is a much bigger storm. This is called Typhoon Bolavin. It's 630 miles by 314 miles big. That's a very big storm. It's expected to make pretty close to a direct hit on Okinawa sometime on Monday. It would be the biggest storm to hit Okinawa since 1999. It's expected to slam into an area about 7 miles north of the American Air Force Base at Kadena, with 167-mile-an-hour gusts. It's also going to dump about 18 inches of rain. The Tennessee Valley Authority in the central southeastern U.S. was found negligent yesterday by a federal judge of actually having a 5 million cubic yard of coal ash spill out of a storage pond. This was back in 2008. The spill flowed into a river and then went downstream, destroying hundreds of acres in a riverside community about 35 miles west of Knoxville. Well, here's an example of people doing what they need to do finally after something happening. For the first time in history, the majority of Japanese people are taking out home insurance coverage that have earthquake riders on them. This is an increase that has now put it at about 54%. This is for the current underwriting year. The percentage of people taking out quake cover has steadily increased, but it really jumped this year. You can guess why. There was a massive earthquake last year. Not surprisingly, the percentage of people choosing to take out quake cover rose the most in Fukushima, which was where the epicenter of the quake was. That saw an 18% rise. Here's an amazing statement by Mitt Romney, who's running for president for the Republicans. You have to scratch your head with this. He said that big businesses in the United States were doing fine, in part because they get advantages from offshore tax havens. He said this yesterday. Big business is doing fine in many places. They get the loans they need. They can deal with the regulation. They know how to find ways to get through the tax code and to save money by putting various funds in places where there are low tax havens around the world for their business. Romney did not mention that, in fact, he keeps some of his personal money in some of these same offshore tax havens. In Santiago, Chile, about 100 students have been arrested after demonstrating against higher tuition fees. The police had to use tear gas and water cannons to break up the demonstration. In Africa, one of the worst cholera outbreaks in years has killed 217 people already in Sierra Leone. About 82 deaths have been reported in neighboring Guinea. Here's an interesting story. A New Zealand man who fled to China after millions of dollars were accidentally transferred into his bank by his bank is now going to jail for almost 5 years. He's called the accidental millionaire. His name is Wei Gao. He was sentenced this morning for stealing millions of dollars after an error by Westpac Bank credited him with $8.1 million instead of the $81,000 loan he had sought in order to improve the BP station that he owns. Upon receiving the money in his bank account, Mr. Gao immediately transferred it out of the bank account so the bank wouldn't be able to take it back. He and his wife then went on an extended gambling vacation in Macau. And then when the New Zealand authorities tried to get him again, he went to China. He's recently been extradited, so he's going to go to jail. Check those bank statements at the ATMs very carefully. You never know. That's the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching. We'll see you Monday.